According to the U.S. Fire Administration, the United States has about 62,000 fewer firefighters than in 2010. Now, today, the town of Beloit approved a plan leaders say is designed to strengthen emergency response locally. Madeline Korzenewski reports.
Instead of there being a separate town of Beloit and a separate city of Beloit Fire Department, they would come together and form one fire department.
Firefighters say the vote isn't about changing who answers your 911 call. It's about making sure someone gets there faster when you need them most.
We're coming together as equals for the benefit of everyone. If I call 911, I don't care who shows up. I just want an ambulance to show up with qualified individuals on it.
Combining resources would create an 81-member department and add a fourth ambulance.
If they can provide the best service to the community, things get done.
We have just been experiencing in the town a tremendous struggle with hiring qualified paramedics.
Staffing shortages are impacting more than the Beloit area. Department leaders across the country are competing for firefighters and paramedics while emergency call volumes rise.
The city alone is running almost 5,000 EMS calls a year, and the township has been running anywhere from 2,000 to 2,500 calls a year.
Leaders say the agreement includes staffing protections while creating one regional department.
So the intention is never to decrease the level of service or the number of firefighters, paramedics that are being employed.
Officials say most people won't notice a change. They may see faster response times.
Change is really hard, but it also takes leadership to create change. And we want to best position these departments for today and into the future.
In Beloit, I'm Madeline Korzenewski.
The proposal now heads to the Beloit City Council, where members are expected to consider the agreement Tuesday at 6 o'clock. If approved, the consolidated department will begin operating January 1st, 2020.